Hello, I'm Tannia Munroe, Head of LATAM Rates here at TradeWeb, and I'm joined today by Rodrigo Cano, Director of Operations Support at Bank of Mexico. Rodrigo, thank you for joining us today. As many of our clients are aware, at the end of this year, Mexico's 28-day FAQs benchmark rate will be replaced by an overnight index, FAQs de fondeo. This is a major change for the derivatives market, and historical context in other markets tells us that early adopters fare better through the transitions to a risk-free rate. Today, our goal is to answer some commonly asked questions and help participants navigate more seamlessly through this process. Given you're leading the effort for this transition, we thought you'd be the perfect person to help us. So tell us, Rodrigo, what is this transition and why is it happening?
First of all, Tannia, thank you very much for the invitation. For the Central Bank of Mexico, it is very important to participate in events like this one. So thank you, and thanks to TradeWeb for the invitation. Let me start by telling you why this transition is happening, and then I will explain what is this transition. As I am sure you remember well, more than 10 years ago, we heard of some manipulation scandals behind the LIBOR rates. We even heard that some financial institutions were sanctioned by the authorities of some jurisdictions. As a result of those scandals, a global initiative was created to shift the reference rates from IBORs to nearly risk-free rates, the well-known RFRs such as SOFR, Ester, SONIA in many jurisdictions around the world. The main difference is that IBOR rates are calculated based on contributions and therefore are relatively easy to manipulate. And on the other hand, the RFRs are based on observed transactions in deep and liquid markets and therefore are very difficult to manipulate. Under this global context, Mexico could not be behind this global initiative, especially taking into account that our IBOR rates, the FAQs 28 days, and the other two tenors, the FAQs 91 and 182 days, those rates are based on contributions and not in observed transactions. We have never had a manipulation scandal, but I don't think it's appropriate to keep a benchmark rate that could have an international stigma because it does not accomplish with all the new international standards. This is why this is happening. Since January 2020, in the Central Bank of Mexico, we started publishing a new benchmark rate, the overnight FAQs funding rate, or funding FAQs for short, which basically complies with all the new international standards. The methodology to calculate the funding FAQs is basically the same as the one used to calculate SOFR in the United States. And in this regard, it is worth noting that the repo market that provides the transactions to calculate the funding FAQs has a daily volume of approximately 5% of Mexico's GDP. This is how we accomplish all the international standards, Tannia.
I'm glad you mentioned SOFR, Rodrigo. We were obviously very involved in making sure the new index was supported at the time, and we offered our clients all the functionality needed. The process of moving from LIBOR to SOFR took place over several years with a very defined timetable. Tell us how Mexico's transition is different, and what is the timeline for it?
Sure, Tannia. Before I tell you the most important deadlines in this transition, let me mention that all the decisions we have taken to proceed in this transition have been consulted with market participants. We have done this through the Reference Rate Working Group, which is the Mexican ARC, GTTR by its acronym in Spanish. This group was created during 2020 by the Central Bank of Mexico, and it is integrated by market participants, or basically every sector you could imagine. Local banks, foreign banks, CCPs, brokerage houses, basically all market participants are represented in the group. Having said that, let me now tell you the most important deadlines in this transition. The first thing I want to mention is that Banco de Mexico have already set the deadlines in which our IBOR rates, again, the TIIE 28 days, 91 and 182 days, are going to be prohibited to be used as a benchmark in new financial contracts. In fact, since January this year, the use of the TIIEs of 91 and 182 days has already been prohibited for these new contracts. This will be the same destiny for the TIIE 28 days, and this will happen as of January next year. This means that as of January next year, market participants will have to use the funding TIIE for new operations. Another important date in this transition will take place in almost 1 month from now, in November 22nd. In that date, the CCPs that clear derivatives that are linked to the TIIE 28 days will implement a conversion very similar to the one observed in other jurisdictions. And each CCP has its own rules of conversion, but the main idea that I want to tell you is that they will convert all the existing contracts linked to the TIIE 28 days in new contracts linked to the funding TIIE. That means OIS contracts. We expect that after this date, the liquidity in the derivatives market will increase exponentially. This is going to be like a big bang event.
That's a very important point I'd like to also emphasize. The CCP conversion will be an important catalyst to this transition, but I also believe the U.S. election will be as well. We've spoken to many clients that think once the election is done, they'll start to shift focus to moving to F-TIIE. It's also key to reiterate that after December 31st, 2024, you will not be able to use 28-day TIIE as the benchmark swap rate in the market. Are you going to cease the publication of the TIIE 28-day?
That's a very good question, Tannia. We will not cease the publication of the TIIEs with tenors of 28, 91, and 182 days. This means that in Mexico's transition, market participants will not have to worry about fallback rates or restructuring legal contracts, which was very costly in other jurisdictions. However, even though we will continue to publish the term TIIEs indefinitely, its methodology will change so that they will be based on the new funding TIIE, something similar to the methodology of ISDA fallback rates. But this is very important. Please keep in mind that those rates will not be allowed to be used in financial contracts, even though we are going to be publishing them indefinitely.
Now, the question I hear most often is really regarding liquidity. Is there liquidity in the market, and are banks ready?
There is some liquidity, and we have even seen some increase in this liquidity recently. However, as I mentioned, the expectation is to have a big bang event in the conversion date, November 22nd. And after that, our expectation is that we will see a huge increase in the liquidity of the funding TIIE derivatives. We have been in close contact, very close contact with market main players and with all the CCPs, and they have told us that they are operationally ready for the conversion and ready to start operating the funding TIIE derivatives just after the conversion. So we are certain that after the conversion, we will see a very important increase in the liquidity.
We've also been very engaged with all of our banks regarding support for the TIIE de Fondeo, known on our platform simply as F-TIIE. All banks are in advanced stages of testing and will be online shortly, if not already on and responding to inquiries. Having said that, how do you see the development of financial products linked to the funding TIIE?
We have focused all our efforts in the last 4 or 5 years on 3 main market products. In terms of the cash market, one of these markets is the debt securities market. Since 2021, the Ministry of Finance was the first institution to issue debt instruments linked to the funding TIIE. And the Ministry of Finance set the standard for other market participants. Once the Ministry of Finance issued, we saw many other institutions like development banks, commercial banks, and even some corporations issuing linked to the funding TIIE. Still in the cash product market, in the banking products, we have seen some banks that already changed the reference rate they use for their credit cards from TIIE 28 days to the funding TIIE. This is a very important step in the transition. Moreover, in order to incentivize banks to grant loans linked to the funding TIIE, in November 2023, last year, we started in the Central Bank of Mexico publishing the compounded in advance overnight funding TIIE, something very similar to the SOFR average. The idea is to use these term rates with a backward-looking methodology exclusively in banking products such as loans, credit cards, etc., etc. So we have been able with these rates to promote and incentivize the market of loans. And finally, the third market in which we have been focusing on is the derivatives market. And as you know, since 2021, the main CCPs launched future contracts linked to the funding TIIE, and more recently, in February this year, again, the main clearinghouses launched the overnight index swap linked to the funding TIIE. So the derivatives market, as I already mentioned, is not quite liquid yet, but we strongly believe that after the conversion, we will see the liquidity. This is basically what we have in terms of the main markets, Tannia.
Thank you, Rodrigo. I think it's very helpful for our clients to understand that while the TIIE de fondeo is key to the derivatives market, it will be a key benchmark for other products as well. Now let's close with what you would offer as final advice to our clients.
Sure, Tannia. Well, in Banco de Mexico, we have been urging all market participants to stop using the TIIE 28 days in new contracts and to start using the funding TIIE as a reference for all their new operations. This is basically the main message I want to transmit. If you start operating the funding TIIE now, this will facilitate an orderly transition and will accelerate the process of the adoption of the funding TIIE in different markets. In terms of the derivatives market, again, keep in mind that if today you operate a swap linked to the TIIE 28 days, whether you are aware or not, you are implicitly trading a funding TIIE swap, an OIS swap linked to the funding TIIE. Remember that the CCPs will convert basically all your TIIE 28-day swaps into funding TIIE swaps. And finally, this is very important as well, the timeline that I described will not change. It's basically written in stone, Tannia. So as of January 1st, 2025, you will no longer be allowed to trade the TIIE 28 days. Those are the main messages I would like to transmit, Tannia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for making that clear. From our perspective here at TradeWeb, we'd like to leave participants with 3 action points. First, get in touch with your TradeWeb rep, either myself or anyone on our team, to discuss testing. Ensuring your downstream systems can handle the new benchmark before the conversion cannot be overemphasized. Number 2, reach out to your top liquidity providers and discuss options with them. Many are already providing indicative levels for F-TIIE, and I would also urge you to take a look at our overview page and get a general sense for where rates are. And last but not least, number 3, as Rodrigo mentioned, the timeline isn't changing, so it's imperative you have a plan for conversion. You can choose to convert at the clearinghouse, or you can switch out of your 28-day TIIE positions and into new F-TIIE positions using our list tool. We're happy to help you with that. Rodrigo, once again, thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise. I know our clients will find it very helpful.
Thank you very much, Tannia, for this opportunity. Thank you.